The New Testament reading is from the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew chapter 10, verses 11 through 15. This is Jesus talking to the disciples. He's giving them instructions. He's preparing them for the mission work ahead. Listen to the word. Whatever town or village you enter, find out who in it is worthy and stay there until you leave. As you enter the house, greet it. If the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it's not worthy, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet as you leave the house or town. Truly, I tell you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on that day of judgment than for that town. May God's blessing be upon the reading of this word. Shake off the dust from your feet. So, what did Jesus really mean by that as he spoke to the disciples? Some people are surprised that Jesus would say such a thing. They don't quite understand. It is like giving up, leave, shake the dust off of your feet and go, and not stay put and evangelize. It is like forsaking the mission, so to speak. John Oman calls this as the act, the sacrament of failure. Jesus knew that his disciples were going to have a hard time continuing his mission. Mission work is not all easy, you know. He is giving them various instructions to protect them and save them from unnecessary anxiety and suffering. Shake off the dust. Now this is or was a Jewish custom. When the Jews went to the Gentile territory or places or country, when they came back, they shook the dust off of their sandal. Because, according to them, that place was unclean. So they cleaned themselves, shaking the dust off. The disciples were to perform the same ritual, but not in this pride or anger, not even in wounded irritation. But as those people who, after reaching the end of human wit and power, are content to leave all issues to the judgment of God, knowing that they have done all that they can now shake off the dust. This is Jesus' prescription to the disciples, that you cannot win all. Some situations are impossible. After doing all that you can and seeing that there's nothing much more that you can do, shake the dust off, and move on, leaving the end result to God. You see, Jesus did not evangelize just for the sake of evangelism or make disciples just for his mission, but he really cared for the people as we are supposed to do. So you are not forsaking that person. It is not that you're not caring for that person anymore, but you are leaving that person or situation prayerfully in the care of God after doing all that you can, or not being able to do all you can. So, be at peace. This prescription of Jesus can be applied to each one of us today. We have a tendency as human beings, we want everything to work out, to be in control, fix things. And when we cannot, we search for answers. Where have I failed? What did I do wrong? If only I had tried harder, did more. We don't forgive ourselves. We have to succeed. We are so scared of failure. I like to succeed. I don't like to fail. But we forget that God may be working in this particular situation in God's own way, in God's own timing, which is different from our ways and our timing. Often, God turns weaknesses into strength, impossibilities into possibilities. Jesus is telling the disciples that success is not theirs or ours to command. What is needed is faithfulness. Faithfulness. That is all. The advice of shaking the dust off is Jesus' counsel against despair. One cannot please everybody. One cannot be a priest to everybody, cannot win everybody, cannot be liked by everybody. So, do not be anxious. Do not be troubled. Do not despair. Maybe this was all that you were supposed to do or not do. Someone else may take it from here and carry it further. Maybe there's a completely different plan for you than the one you think. But often we forget. I will be the first to admit. We want to succeed. But certain situations are impossible. Certain relationships are impossible. There are times when I have to remind myself to back up. I cannot solve all the problems. I cannot get everyone from unbelief to faith, or keep spending energies on an impossible situation. I can do my best, and I can remain faithful. There are times when I must let go and prayerfully commit it to God, leaving it in God's care, control, and wisdom. Jesus gives another instruction to the disciples. Let your peace return to you. Peace is a benediction, a blessing, or a greeting. In Hebrew, it is translated as shalom. In Arabic, it is salam alaikum, which means peace be upon you, a greeting, a blessing. If peace, blessing in Jesus Christ is not received, or if the household is unreceptive to the peace in Jesus Christ, then let the blessing, the peace, come back to you. Do not be perturbed. You don't have to go any further. In another word, the disciples are not to provoke unnecessary problems. They are not to die on every cross, every situation. There is more work to be done. They must push on. History tells us that Jesus sent his disciples to the Jews first, and then the gospel went to the Gentiles. At that time, the name Christian was enough to be persecuted under Emperor Nero. You know, there are still places, even now, where persecution still exists. The form may have changed. Jesus tells us not to invoke unnecessary persecution. Yet, at the same time, he commands us to go and make disciples of all nations, with a promise that he will always be with us. I am with you always, to the end of the age, says Jesus. Matthew 28:20. So we are to carry the mission, wise as serpents and innocent as doves, armed with complete faith in the one who calls us, trusting that his presence, guidance to be with us throughout. God's presence itself will be the judge of various situations. The gravity of refusing the message and mission of Jesus is emphasized in this very passage by the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The ultimate judgment is God's, not ours. We do not have to worry about the end. God's kingdom does not depend on our failures and success as much as we like to think sometimes. We forget as human beings. You know, I have been involved in mission work, and you know that. Lately, it was Nepal, an area devastated by extreme earthquakes. We went to the homeless, the ones in shelter, way up in the mountains, where damage was extreme. We worked with orphans, children, women, providing basic needs like warm clothing, food. We taught, preached, converted some of the shelters into worshiping places of worship, made disciples. It was hard, difficult, even dangerous, but it was good work. I have so many stories, so many blessings to take away from that. But I have also been in places where people are not only unaware of Christ, but are against Christianity. When I was there, I felt something like the disciples of old. I had to be careful. Persecution still exists. I had to be careful how I projected my belief or how I could project them at all. I wanted to be the part of that culture. I wanted to be part of those people. Even if they don't know Christ, they're still God's people. So I attended the gatherings, joined in their worship services, careful not to upset them unnecessary, just as Jesus has instructed. Every now and then, in certain situations, I would quote Bible verses, the ones that I could remember by heart. The people did not know where they were coming from, and they did not ask, and I did not volunteer to tell under the situation. But they appreciated the verse as having a lot of wisdom. There was a young boy of 17 or 18 years old, a good-looking, intelligent, vibrant boy from an affluent caste system or family. He had fallen head over heel in his first encounter with love. And there are problems. There often are. He needed to talk. And I was willing to listen. I'm a counselor, so we bonded. One day, as we were talking, I read to him from 1 Corinthians 13. He told me that it was the most beautiful description of love that he had ever heard. It touched him deeply. Yes, that is pure love, he would say, over and over again, nodding his head from right to left, almost mesmerized. It really left an impression on his lovesick heart. Let me read 1 Corinthians 13 now. And let us try to open our mind, open ourselves as if we are hearing it for the first time in your life. You know, we are so fortunate. We have all this beautiful gospel given to us, the word of Christ. We often can take it for granted. We've heard this 1 Corinthians 13 over and over again, weddings, everywhere. But just imagine if you heard it for the first time in your life. So let's clear our mind. Let's just do that. I want you to experience what I saw. The experience of that boy, the emotions that I witnessed. Okay, I'm going to read it. Try to hear it as if for the first time. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all, believes all, hopes all, endures all. Love never ends. You know, there are people who have never heard this in this world and probably will never hear it. The boy was so much in love, like I said, would nod his head from left to right. Pure love. That's pure love. It was beautiful to witness that. I treasure it. It's a treasure that's been given to me. He wanted to know where this quotation came from. He wanted to read it at some party of his, probably to create an impression on the girl that he was so smitten with. I said to him, "Do you really want to know where it came from?" And he did. So, I told him it was from the Bible. His eyes got real big. I can still see his eyes. They were huge anyway. That was a big no-no. He did not say anything. There was a complete hush. I left the Bible there, marked, and took my leave. I knew the time had come for me to go. Did he ever pick up the Bible? I don't know. Did he read from 1 Corinthians 13 at his party or to the girl? I probably will never know. But one thing I did know, that my work had come to an end there. Maybe the seeds were sown to be watered by someone else. Did I ever win him over? I don't know. I know I left some impression. But what I did know was that my welcome had come to an end. And it was time for me to shake off the dust from my feet and move on, prayerfully, trusting in God's presence in this situation as in other situations, relying on God's judgment and ultimate wisdom to do the rest. In Christ's name, amen.